I'm delighted to be here with Joe Folkman and Jack Zenger, the founders of Zenger Folkman, here in their offices. And we're really delighted to be part of the Zenger Folkman group for a number of reasons. One is reconnecting with Jack and going back to our times with Zenger Miller. Now it's real trouble keeping all the companies straight. And Jack has really, along with Joe, put together a great company here that is focused a lot on strength-based leadership. And the most recent book, How to Be Exceptional, with the subtitle Magnifying Your Strengths, really picks up that theme very strongly. And a lot of this work is built around very evidence-based kind of approaches that are very researched, with a lot of what Joe brings to the equation here. And the underlying philosophies of all of this work around coaching and developing and building leadership is yet another reason we're excited to be part of the team. And it fits perfectly with so much of what we've been doing over the last number of years. So I wonder if you can speak a little bit to some of the, well, I guess, Jack, from your perspective, and what are some of the things that you're happy to be working with us on?
Well, certainly the first thing is that we see the Canadian market as being an extremely important market. It's an important neighbor, and we've had some clients up there, but we haven't probably made as much of an inroad into Canada as we would like, and we want to do a better job of servicing those clients. And when we began to think about that and thought about who might we partner with, certainly your name came up, and we've had great conversations that's led us to this point.
It's great to reconnect again.
And it's in life you have these very interesting events where you have a partnership with somebody that is based on a handshake. And as you know, in our earlier kind of exposure together back beginning in 1980 and lasting about 20 years, that whole relationship always worked well, and it was on the basis of trust. And so we look forward to working with somebody that we trust, that we know will be a great partner, and with whom we can have some synergy that will truly penetrate the Canadian market.
Well, and what I'm excited about, particularly as I look at a lot of your materials, are how what you've really done is built a system, a leadership development system that is strength-based, that is built on strong evidence, and is really helping people put together personal development, leadership development plans that then you follow through. So maybe, Joe, you can give us a bit of a sense of where that came from, the research, how you moved into the strength-based area, because you really were pioneers in a lot of that field.
We started this from a database of over 200,000 assessments of 20,000 leaders, and we looked at that data, tried to help us understand what was happening. Our question was, how do leaders become great? And what's the difference between good leaders and great leaders? And we found that great leaders, surprise, surprise, did a few things really well. It wasn't the absence of weakness, but rather the presence of strengths that made them great. And that's one of the insights in the book here, in our first book. And we follow that up in the second book with how do you develop a strength? It's a different process than fixing a weakness. So.
And one of the big contributions there is the whole idea of cross competencies or companion competencies, cross training. Maybe just speak a little bit to that. It is something that really sets apart a lot of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I think the fundamental idea is certainly one that's familiar with people who are long-distance runners, who realize there's only a certain number of miles you can run in a week or month, and so they begin to do other things. They bicycle, they swim, they do a lot of other things. And that's just not true for runners. It's also true for other people who really learn to do other activities that help them be better golfers or better tennis players. I had a friend who was a big lumbering lineman who was recruited by a university to play football, and his coach had him go take ballet lessons as a way of helping him be a little
That's
more,
an interesting
more
image.
nimble and, Anyway, the fundamental idea...
And the point was to help build some balance?
To help build agility and balance.
Yeah, right.
And so the idea about helping people see what are those behaviors that go hand in hand with each of these 16 differentiating competencies.
Right.
with the clear conclusion that if given the fact that these are statistically significantly correlated, if you pull one of them up, it's going to help pull the other one up with it. And they are related. I mean, they're getting better at one does help you get better at the other.
And it's the whole notion then, that focusing on where are you strong, how can you build on that, that sweet spot of intersection of where your passion is and organizational need and so forth. And Joe, the tool, the 360 tool, there are a number of them around, and you've been doing that, working in that sort of field for quite a few decades now. What are you particularly, I guess, proud of or found has really been effective with the tool that you've put together?
Well, the effectiveness of the tool starts with the items.
Right.
And one of the things that we know is a really good item can be very helpful. Our database, we started with almost 2,000 items that we looked through, and what we were looking for were the items that separated, the differentiating items. Now, we found that some items, when we looked at the best and the worst leaders, there were no differences. The one I like the best is being on time to meetings. No difference between the best and the worst leaders.
That's a lot of people off the hook.
It does. Well, it's about what happens when you get to the meeting, not when you get there. But there were other items where there were huge gaps, and what we started to understand was when you saw those huge gaps, that item was a nerve ending. If people did it really well, they got really high scores. If they didn't do it well, they got low scores. And that separation ability, that's the problem. A lot of 360s, they're just mush. Because that one item, on time to meetings, didn't make any difference. Best leaders, worst leaders, same score. But these items, they differentiate. And so by starting with the items and finding the differentiating items, it helps us separate the great, the good, and those that need improvement. And so that's the start of the 360. Another key characteristic is the scale. It avoids a false positive in the way we've constructed it. The third thing is that we have in the 360 an employee commitment index. So you not only understand your leadership effectiveness, you understand the extent to which those people are engaged, committed, and love their job. And so those kinds of things, I think the most important thing is takes 15 minutes to complete the 360. It's a really easy, simple tool, but very, very predictive of profitability, turnover, customer satisfaction, employee engagement and commitment, all these factors. We know the 360 actually can predict those outcomes.
I would add just one more, and that is, having looked at a bunch of these, it's really nice to see one that's kind of simple, easy. You can digest the information in a second or two, rather than studying a table of numbers.
And I guess I would end then in terms of summarizing the whole idea that this is a system. So you have the tool, you have a focus on strengths, you have all this research and data, and then you're pulling it together, first of all with a workshop, but it doesn't just end there. That's really the beginning. So maybe you can summarize those key elements of the system.
So there's a bunch of follow-on steps that are designed to provide that as sustainability. You're absolutely right. It isn't what happens only during a workshop or when someone gets a 360.
Right.
It's what happens after that and how they implement it. So we have designed a series of follow-on activities and successive workshops that will help keep that alive and keep it refreshed and keep it being applied.
And it's branched off. You have other books as well now around coaching and inspiring leadership, but this is really kind of the core that we're addressing here today.
It is, and again, Jim, we found leaders can improve. I think a lot of people doubted that. They were like fixed. And we found quite the opposite. We found that if you work on this like you do tennis or golf, well, maybe not golf, I don't know.
Maybe tennis.
Golf never works. But when you work on it, when you practice, if you practice leadership, you can raise the bar. And we found in organizations they can raise the bar. We found significant improvement in organizations. So we can help an organization take good leaders and make great ones. And that.
Yeah, and that's a great note to end on, that it doesn't take being some kind of superstar, or you don't have to be perfect to go from good to great, or to be extraordinary, or to be exceptional.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Yeah.